Okay, today's lesson we're going to be doing mixture problems using liquids. I'm going to do one example of the first one, and then we're going to look at the work that I did on the other two. Okay, a chemist has 40 milliliters of a solution that is 50% acid. How much water should he add to make a solution that is 10% acid? So we've got our chart already provided. I'm going to go ahead and fill in the blanks as with the information that I know. First of all, I'm going to go ahead and highlight in yellow amounts. So everything that has an amount is going to be highlighted in yellow. So a chemist has 40 milliliters, that's an amount, of a solution that's 50% acid. How much is an amount? How much should be added to make a solution that is 10%? Okay, so I've got all the amounts. Now I'm going to go look through the problem for the percents. Okay, so now we've got 50% acid, and then we have a 10% acid. And now, let's fill in what we've got. Alright, it says a chemist has 40 milliliters of a 50% acid. So we've got a 50%, and I'm going to convert that 50% to a decimal, so it's 0.50. And it said we had 40%, so the amount is going to be, or 40 milliliters, so it's going to be 40 milliliters of 50% acid. How much water should be added? Okay, we don't have a percent for water, but water has no taste, there's no acid in water, so it is a 0%. So the next line for water, we have 0%, which is just 0. And the question is how much. When it says how much, that is our x. So we're going to put an x right here. Alright, and we're trying to make. The word make represents your new solution, your mixture, that sort of thing. So anything that's make is going to go at the bottom. So now, when there's an empty spot right here at the bottom, you're going to make that a plus problem. So down here, and I'm going to erase that red circle I just did, this is going to be plus. So I'm going to put 40 plus x. Okay, and that is to be made a 10% solution for our new solution is 10%. So it's 0.10. Okay, so I've got the information in my box filled out. Now, over here in this amount acid, that's going to be these two boxes multiplied together. So it's going to be 50%, so 0.50 times 40. It's going to be 0 times x, and it's going to be 0.10, and I'm going to make this a quantity. 0.10 times 40 plus x. Okay, now the next part of this, you have to know that it's this box plus this box is going to equal the last box. So let's look at how we write that together. It's going to be 0.50 0.50 times 40 plus 0x is going to be equal to 0.10 times 40 plus x. Okay, there's my equation. Now, if you don't have a calculator handy, it's easiest to clear your decimals. So I'm going to clear my decimals by moving this decimal 2 places here. And the 10, I need to clear that by moving that one 2 places. So you're going to move it the biggest places, the largest that you can. If it's 2, you move it 2. If it's 3, you'd move it 3. So if you have one that's 2 and you have one that's 3, you need to move all of them 3. And the 0, we're just going to, at this point, disregard it because it's a 0. We don't write 0. So now we've got 50 times 40 plus 10 times 40 plus x. Okay, and let me go back and make a correction. It shouldn't be plus here. It is an equal sign that goes in between here, because it would be plus 0, but we got rid of it, so now it's equal. Now let's go ahead and do the math. We can probably multiply in our head, and I'm going to go ahead and do my work over here. 50 times 40, what's 5 times 4? Is 20, and then there's 2 zeros, is equal to 10 times 40, so 1 times 4 is 4, and there's 2 zeros. And then 10 times x is 10x. So I was working over here, and I was working in my head. Alright, the next one is now I'm just going to put x's on one side and numbers on the other. So I am going to subtract 400 from both sides. I get 1600 here, and we have 10x. Divide by 10, divide by 10. I can cancel one of the zeros, and my x is equal to 160. So we have 160 milliliters of water need to be added. Okay. Alright, so that is number 1. Now I'm going to go and I'm going to do a second problem, and then I'm just going to show you the work on the other problems that you've done. I'm not going to talk it through. I'm just going to show you what I did and maybe briefly explain. Okay, so now we're going to do problem 4, which is on the second page. I went ahead and I highlighted, to save us a little bit of time, I highlighted the amounts in the percents. So now we'll start filling in the blocks. How many is our x? So how many 60%? So here I'm going to put my percent as 60%. I'm going to make it a decimal already because I know how to do that. It says how many gallons with our 60%. So the x is going to go at the 60%. Should be mixed with 40%. That's our second solution, 40%. To make, remember make is a mixture, that's at the bottom, 80 gallons of 45. Alright, now if you have a blank anywhere, and I'm going to see if I can find a color. If you have a blank in this box, these two top boxes, that's going to be a subtraction problem. So if the blank empty spot is right here or right here, you're going to make it subtraction. If the empty was at the bottom, it would be a plus problem. So we've got an empty spot right here. So I'm going to make that a subtraction. It's always the number minus the variable, which in this case is x. Same idea. Let's go ahead and just write it as 0.60 times x, 0.40 times 80 minus x, and then 0.45 times 80. And I'm going to do a little bit of work up here. I'm going to write my equation. It is 0.60 x plus 0.40 times 80 minus x is equal to 0.45 times 80. Okay, clear the decimals if you don't have a calculator. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Again, if you have a calculator handy, you can just keep the decimals and use them and plug them into your calculator. Let me see where I'm at. Here we go. Move this over 2 places. We're going to move this 2 places, and we're going to move this decimal 2 places. So now we have 60x plus 40 times 80 minus x is equal to 45 times 80. Alright, next step, we just keep our 60x. We're going to multiply 4 times 8 is 32, and there's 2 zeros. 40 times negative x is negative 40x. And then we've got 45 times 80, and that is going to be 3,600. Alright, now we're going to combine like terms. So all what we're doing now is just solving equations. So here it is. Here's my wall. We have negative 40, positive 60, so it's going to be a positive 20x, because 60 minus 40 is 20, plus 3,200 is equal to 3,600. Subtract 3,200 from 3,600, and we get 400. And we have 20x. Divide by 20, divide by 20, x is going to be equal to 20 times 20 is 400. So my x is 20. So we need 20 gallons of 60% antifreeze. So that's what's going to go in our line 4 answer. Okay, now I'm going to go back. You might want to pause it. Go back to the other page, do the work on 3 and 4, and then 5 and 6, and then come back and look to see how you did, because I'm going to put the answers up here. Okay, so I couldn't get back to 2 and 3, but let's look at 5. So there is the answer for 5. You need 60 ounces of a 48% solution, and if you're not sure how I got the answer, then stop and look and see if you can figure it out. We plugged in all the percents. We plugged in what we didn't know, because it says how many 48%. Oh, sorry. And there was an empty spot right here, so that means that we made a subtraction, and we just did the math. Okay, looking at the next one, again, it says how many gallons of the 10%, that's your variable. It told us that there was 50 gallons of the 30%, we're trying to make it 15%, so it's a plus problem, so right there. Now, let me see if I can get to, alright, and I can't get back to 3 and 4, so I'm going to go ahead and do it on a new video, 2 and 3, so that you can check your work.